Let's talk a bit about academic integrity. This is especially important as you start writing and citing other authors, which you do quite a bit of in graduate writing. I believe that most graduate students, if they do plagiarize, they do it by mistake. I hope that this short presentation decreases the chance that you will become an accidental plagiarist. The learning outcomes include explain how to properly credit work from other authors, and recommend methods to avoid becoming an accidental plagiarist. When you complete research, it is important that you cite other authors. It gives you credibility as others read your paper. They know that you have read the others who have investigated similar topics as the one you're investigating. As Sir Isaac Newton noted, if I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. We build upon what others have said before us. Plus, why do we want to reinvent the wheel if it's already been invented? However, sometimes we have an idea that is better than the wheel. We still need to understand the wheel that came before us, but that doesn't limit our creativity and ability to explore other topics. You know why students plagiarize: time, confidence, language or writing skills, library literacy, etc. Start early. Use the Writing Center. It's free, so you already paid for it. Use Grammarly. Free. That's the one I use. Use Turnitin. Finish early. Let paper sit overnight. Review carefully. With groups, set clear rules and review each other's work even more carefully. And finish early. With plagiarism, you take others' work and do not give them credit. It's the same as stealing an item from someone. The work you fail to cite is owned by the copyright holder, just as the candy bar is owned by Kroger. This is more of a high school thing, but I like the cartoon. How can what you reported be wrong if it all came off the internet? Ha ha. This is one reason we must evaluate the quality of our resources. All information is not created equal. When you give credit, you have several options. You may direct quote someone when what they said is so compelling or provocative or worded in such a unique way that you summarize it in your own words. You should minimize direct quotes. In your literature review, I would expect no more than 1 to 2 direct quotes and no more than one in your introduction. Statistics and facts are not appropriate for direct quotes. You can paraphrase portions of another work by putting the ideas of the passage in your own words. You still must cite afterward. Sometimes you summarize the entire article in a couple of sentences. You still must cite. If you make two assertions from the same article back to back, you must cite it each time. That's one reason to integrate and synthesize. You don't want to cite the same paper over and over again. It makes the reader think, did you read anything else? Here's a sample quotation from Sheryl Sandberg, COO of Meta and former VP at Google, worth close to $2 billion. We cannot change what we are not aware of, and once we are aware, we cannot help but change. And that's from 2013. This quote summarizes how we need to know there's a problem, like not enough women in technology, before we can solve it. And once we do know the problem, we can't sit back and do nothing. Sandberg is an advocate for more women in the tech workplace. She famously encouraged women to lean in, to persist and succeed and move up in the IT workforce. Her book was met with praise and criticism. Some remarked that Sandberg had access to resources that others did not have, money and nannies and others to help her care for her 2 children while she leaned in. However, she advocates for more women to rise to top leadership roles in tech, and she puts her money where her mouth is. Here's an example of paraphrasing, where you put the ideas of a passage of text or several passages, as in this case, in your own words, and then you cite. The first citation notes that capture the flag competitions are usually team events, while the second citation notes that there are several challenges that arise from this structure, including communication, coordination, etc. Both ideas are cited, although the expression of the ideas is my own. You may also decide to summarize an entire article. In this case, you put the overall ideas in your own words, and again, it must be cited. Here, an article found that students in captured the flag competitions experienced stress and then withdrew or did not finish the competition. The summary is again cited. Obviously, turning in someone else's work as your own is plagiarism. Have I seen this? Of course. I've taught since 1996 at Clemson, Georgia State, and KSU, from 18-year-olds to graduate students. I also oversaw a $1.2 million NSF grant to deliver an online introduction to computing class to high school students. Boy, there is a difference between 15-year-olds and 18-year-olds and even 22-year-olds and graduate students. I've taught graduate students only for the last 15 or so years, and that's where I want to stay. It's fine to paraphrase a source, but you need to keep it short, ideally to one sentence, and you must cite afterward. If you make a mashup of several sources, you must cite at every point where there is an assertion, a statement, or a fact that you obtained from another source. And of course, if you integrate among several sources, noting in your own words conclusions you reach, like, although most authors agree that mentors positively influence the likelihood that women and people of color will persist in IS professions, cite 1, 2, 3. Some authors argue that pay differentials are more important when women decide to drop out of the IS workforce, cite 4. While other authors, cite 5 and 6, argue that work-family life balance are more important to people of color. You've there brought together 3 different ideas. You brought them together and summarized them really nicely on where the agreements and disagreements are. But you've cited all of them. The important thing to remember is just cite everything. All written assignments will be submitted to Turnitin. I'll also open a non-graded, non-instructor monitored Turnitin assignment where you can submit any assignments you want at any stage for any class at any time. I will not look at this assignment unless you specifically request me to do so. Use this option if you like. It's free. You already paid for it. Where do you need to be careful? Take a look at this list. Keep these points in mind and appeal to your inner angel rather than your inner devil. What strategies can you use? Well, identify what is your work by explicitly saying what is not your own work. Please, please, please don't wait till the last minute. With written assignments, I always recommend letting it sit overnight before submitting. Get help. The Writing Center, a professor, a friend to read the paper, a family member, somebody. Ask questions. The Writing Center. Me. I'll answer questions like this even when I am no longer your professor. You can find me. I'm not leaving KSU until I retire. Even then, email me. Take a look at the next video for strategies to use to avoid becoming the accidental plagiarist. Let's review when it is plagiarism. In a group project, is your name on the work? Then yes, you are responsible for anything submitted by the group. But what if you didn't write the plagiarized part? It doesn't matter. I once had a group remove a section that they found was plagiarized at the last moment. They had found the plagiarized material a week earlier and told their group member to rewrite it. The rewrite was still plagiarized, and rather than receive a possible grade of 0 and academic integrity action, they took a 10% reduction on their grade for the missing section and informed me. That was a smart decision to make. If your name is on it, it's your work. For an individual assignment, did you intend to plagiarize? It doesn't matter if you did or not, you still plagiarized. The punishment may be less severe if the professor believes the intent was innocent, but it may not. That's up to the professor's discretion. Did you recycle a paper or a topic? If you did you discuss it with the professor in advance? If yes, it's probably not plagiarism as long as you met the guidelines agreed upon by you and the professor. If you didn't discuss in advance, then it's probably plagiarism. Why is all this so important? Well, at KSU, you usually not always, get one chance with academic integrity. You still are subject to the penalty imposed by your professor, which can include up to an F in the course and other possible penalties. And if it's egregious, you may be dismissed from the university. While the first violation doesn't usually lead to dismissal, it does, in effect, go on your permanent record, to borrow from K through 12. The only time it may come up is if KSU has asked for your background in the context of a request for a top secret clearance. I learned this only a couple of years ago. They would then be obligated to report even the first offense. For the second offense, if found to have violated academic integrity standards, you are typically dismissed from KSU and all other USG institutions for a year or more. So the reward can be immediate and can lead to good grades. If you aren't caught, it's not a big deal to me. If you are caught, it irritates me, and then I have to do paperwork and stuff. But the penalty if you are caught may be severe. Something to consider. Here are a few guidelines. Let's look at assertions. Whose statement or expressions of ideas am I using? If it's your own, then no need to cite. But be careful. Insert assertions without citation. Your personal beliefs, opinions, and/or knowledge, while valuable, are not citable in academia unless they're published elsewhere. If someone else's, you must cite them. If you use your own words, you need to cite if the assertions are someone else. If the words are another's, you must put in quotation marks and properly cite. What about pictures? If available under Creative Commons licenses or public domain, follow appropriate guidelines and cite if needed. For free pictures, try Pixabay. If pictures are not available under a CC or public domain license, you likely need written permission to cite, or you need to purchase the artwork. For this class, do not use another's artwork table, figure, chart, drawing, graphic, etc. In summary, your paper is stronger when you use research from other authors to build your own ideas. You may paraphrase, quote, or summarize the work of other authors as you complete your research. You must use inline text citations and include a reference in proper APA format, no matter which method you use. As you research, use recommended strategies to avoid becoming an accidental plagiarist.